Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Epicharismatic and today I'm going to give my opinions on the different arguments discussed by Ethan from H3 and Pearl of Just Pearly Things. I'm basically just going to give my rebuttals to all of the arguments that Pearl makes that I noticed Ethan didn't really mention when he was debating her live. So let's get into it.
From what kind of important messages is it that you find yourself are about?
I believe in family, so I think that we should have policies that push family. I think that feminism overall was a bad thing. I think that we should be. I think women are happier when we have, a family and kids over a career in the long run. Yeah.
Okay, so we got policies that push family, feminism was overall bad, and women are happier being mothers at home than having careers. Let's say this. I agree with point 1, disagree with point 2, and I think point 3 is too general. Some women prefer being homemakers and mothers, but some genuinely don't. You can't sit here and say women are happier at home as a blanket statement like that. It's just objectively not true.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous.
It's
I'm a
okay.
little-
Yeah, I understand. So it's more like traditional. You want people to kind of follow a more traditional path in terms of family and gender and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, and you just see the negative outcomes a society has when families fall apart, right? And it's especially hard on the children. Like you see, the kids are more likely to go to prison, they're more likely to drop out of school, they're more likely to be in mental health institutions. So you just see all of the problems that come with single mother homes. So I just think it's important that we push policies that push family.
Okay, yeah, children coming from single mother homes tend to struggle more in life. I hope this means she's going to talk about how fathers need to be present in their children's lives instead of abandoning them.
So how do you push a policy that promotes family? Like in what way can you force a family to stay together or encourage it in a sense?
Well, I think you first have to get rid of incentives that incentivize women to leave families. So, for example, child support, alimony, I'm not really a fan of those.
She thought she ate. Anyways, you talk about the negative impacts of children growing up in single mother homes, but talk nothing about the tons of cases where that happens because the fathers abandon their children. That happens all the time, and that's destructive to families, so why aren't you talking about that?
Child support. So if there's a divorce, let's say
actually, I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned. Yes.
Okay, well that's a little bit silly. You have to acknowledge that, right?
No.
So banning divorce means that when you decide to get married, you are not allowed by the government to leave your significant other in any situation.
Yeah. I just think that if you want to leave, you just shouldn't get married. So that's just my opinion.
People like you are the reason we don't live in a direct democracy. Because then we just have laws that are totally dysfunctional just because people thought they should be there. Also, I think it's ironic that the same people who push for a ban on no-fault divorce look down on Muslims because of how they treat women, yet those women are the ones who are allowed to get divorces if they want to. Who's backwards now? That is so embarrassing for you, to be honest. At least don't act like you're morally superior if you're going to do stuff like this.
Right, but in the real world, that kind of simplistic.
And there's exceptions to this, but I would just say in general, for most cases, we could talk about exceptions, but the rule.
Well, the
divorce,
exceptions are the important part, because I've heard you say that a lot when you're talking about things. You say, oh, you want to talk about exceptions, but the exceptions is the important part, because those are the people that are going to be affected.
Yeah, exceptions are definitely important, as Ethan says, but to be honest, she's just straight up wrong about the majority anyway. In her world, a minute number of people would ever get married, and of those people, many of them would be stuck in terrible marriages. So really, we'd be living in a world mostly comprised of lonely and or miserable people, with only a small minority actually benefiting from marriage. If she really wanted marriages to succeed, she would address the issue of financial abuse, which is rampant among couples that have a breadwinner husband and a homemaker wife. That's one of the biggest reasons women opt out of traditional marriages.
exceptions are going to be a large part of divorces, as you say. I mean, you're talking about like, you know, 25% maybe or more. Because if you're saying you're not allowed to get divorced, so we're talking about like, what if the relationship is physically abusive?
Mhm. Yeah, I think if it's physically, this is the problem though. All right. If it's one-sided physically abusive, okay, fine, divorce. We can allow divorce for those exceptions. But
Okay.
like I've even talked to people that work at like abuse centers, and they say that the majority of abuse is mutual. So it's not just one side's hitting the other, it's like mutual. So
Surely
I
that's
just
not
think the
every
goal, I
time.
think
That literally doesn't matter. A vast majority of the time, and we know Pearl wants us to focus on the majority, the man is significantly physically stronger than the woman. To compare the two hitting each other as mutual is like comparing a 7-year-old fighting a 15-year-old. Physically, they are in two different stages of development. One is much larger and stronger than the other. The hits of a 7-year-old will feel like nothing to a 15-year-old, but the other way around would feel like a boxing match. Let's be honest, Pearl knows this, and she just wants those women to get beat up without ever even trying to defend themselves. It's honestly deplorable.
I just think that the goal should be to keep families together, and that the goal should be to work through it.
I wonder if she would say that to a husband who gets mistreated by his wife. I wonder if this means that she can sleep around after she gets married because they can't get divorced anymore. Something tells me she wouldn't be so happy about that.
But
So
yeah, I just think like, you know, for the people that don't believe in real marriage, because what is marriage if you can get divorced over damn near anything? It's not marriage anymore. It's something else.
well, I
So
think the reason for that, historically, this emphasis on staying married, right? Or even before this no fault divorce was an option, and it was more difficult for women to get divorced or men, the abuse of power and the risk for abuse and for people to get stuck in a horrible relationship situation, not just for them, but their kids, right? I mean, obviously, having your kids watch their mother get beat up. And oftentimes it's going to bleed.
or the kids get watching their father get beat up. Like it goes both ways.
I
thought she wanted to focus on the majority of cases.
No, I said less than 10% of the abuse cases of the 25%. So that's like
Journal of Family Violence in 2014 found that approximately 25% of divorces in the United States involve domestic violence.
right. But again, that's because the woman says that she was, because their incentive.
Okay, but you're just
program.
saying stuff. You're just saying stuff. You don't actually know that to be true.
No, I do.
How?
I do. Like, okay, in the UK, there's a law that you get a free lawyer if
How does that prove that women are lying about violence?
Because I'm saying that you can't. Okay, you can't prove it unless they go to criminal court, because criminal court is based off of evidence, where family court is based off of a balance of probability. So it means it's more likely that they did it than didn't do it. It's not innocent until proven guilty.
Right, but they're not going to jail. It's just to let the abused.
I mean, you could
partner.
call it jail when you have a lifetime of not seeing your children. When the whole.
No, you can't. You can't see your kids in either scenario, but in one, you still have all your other freedoms, and in the other, you're locked up. In no world are those two situations basically the same.
I actually don't see a point in getting married with the way that marriage is today, to be honest. Yeah, because again, like, what is it? The average marriage is like 8 years. So the average marriage is 8 years and you're done. That's not marriage.
She keeps saying that marriages that don't last forever aren't real marriages, but they are. Like, legally, they are. Just because you have some idealized fantasy of what marriage is, doesn't mean everyone who's actually been married before weren't in real marriages.
Leaving a marriage due to domestic violence and not pursuing criminal charges. Let's say that a woman's in a marriage and they have no fault marriage divorce. So let's say she doesn't want to charge her husband. She just wants to leave amicably, okay? But in your situation, she's forced to charge him legally, to have a police investigation, charge him for domestic violence. Wouldn't that be more damaging to his reputation?
Yes, But she didn't even consider that because in her mind, women are all self-centered brats who just want to do whatever they want, whenever they want, with no regards for the people around them.
For example, you ask why a mom wouldn't want to try a parent. It's more nuanced, right? I mean, you need a more developed take on that because it's very traumatic for the kids and the family to put their father through a violence case, and especially when the kids are probably going to have to ask to testify, to talk to the police. I mean, I totally understand why a mother or father wouldn't want to put their family through that, don't you?
I mean, I can understand it. Yeah.
Sure.
But she doesn't care because she's not in that situation, nor has she ever been.
Tell me, what does red pilled mean to you? Because I've heard you use that phrase a lot. You're part of the red pilled community.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people, I will say, a lot of people have their own definitions of it, so people use it for different things. But I would say it's viewing the world the way it's supposed to be, or like the way it is, not the way you're told it is. So, like, for example, a lot of guys think if they treat a girl nice and give her flowers that, she'll essentially sleep with him. And then a lot of guys find out that's not true. And so then they, came together and realized that. So that's just one thing.
That's good. I think it's good for people to know the truth and be in touch with reality. Obviously, she's speaking with a negative tone of voice, implying that reality is such a bad thing, but I don't think it's bad that women don't want to sleep with men even if they're given things. Just give out of the goodness of your heart or don't. Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with this so far.
Men don't expect women to reproduce more with felons than non-felons.
Poor people in general tend to reproduce more. Felons tend to be poor people. Therefore, felons are reproducing more than non-felons. That's it. Women who are well off aren't choosing to reproduce with felons most of the time. If anything, this fact points to the serious issue we have with economic class in this country, not a cultural issue among women.
Yeah, is there a source for that? It just seems kind of an odd stat. What does it prove? Felons have more kids than non-felons.
Well, I think the reasoning is because women want a guy that can, protect her, basically.
A felon?
Oh my god, the way Ethan said a felon just got me. Sorry. Yeah, that's the last type of guy that would protect you.
For women pick violent men more than men pick violent women.
There's more violent men than violent women.
But do you feel that sometimes you argue from emotion rather than concrete facts? I find that when you talk about, and I've watched a lot of your videos, you say stuff that I don't think has much of a backing in reality. It's based on feelings.
I don't think she makes arguments based on feelings necessarily. I think it's more that she makes arguments based on opinions as someone who doesn't ever have to deal with the topics she talks about. I think she has an agenda to make everything easier for men and harder for women, and I think one of the biggest reasons she doesn't care about her own rights when it comes to marriage and kids is because she doesn't have either. It's all fun and games to someone like her. That's why she always has that shimmer in her eyes whenever she comes up with these solutions to societal issues. None of them are realistic for making improvements to society, but she wouldn't know that. Again, this is why we don't have a direct democracy.
Okay.
Some things you just see in reality, right? I mean,
some things
sometimes
you just
you're
see.
gonna, I mean, you can, some things you just learn from interviewing hundreds of people. You see patterns.
Right. But sometimes when you interview people, you interviewing specific people with specific experiences, you're obviously going to run into a bias.
No, I don't think so, because we do street interviews all the time too. So that's random people on the street.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but she still doesn't interview enough people to be able to represent the mass population. There's a reason researchers conduct studies on these different topics. Because you need enough people to gather accurate data. She says she interviews random people on the streets, but if she's interviewing people in a certain neighborhood, that right there already eliminates the randomness that she's talking about. It's not enough to just not know these people personally. They have to come from a variety of different backgrounds too, including geographical backgrounds. So again, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
So you say you're anti-feminism? Feminism was basically a mistake. So what is your problem with feminism? Let's start there. That's a good point, right?
I think that feminism wants equality when it benefits us and not actual equality.
So, why do you care? Wouldn't that benefit you?
Feminism, and are you going back to the beginning of feminism, like the whole history of feminism, like women's suffrage and everything?
Yeah, no, I don't.
You don't fuck with women's suffrage?
No,
You don't think women should get the right to vote?
no, I don't.
Bruh.
Okay, so are you serious or are you kidding?
No, I'm serious.
Okay, so women they shouldn't have the right to vote.
Yeah.
Why?
No. Because men are signed up for selective service, so they're fined $300,000 if they don't sign up for selective service when they're 18.
Do you think women should be drafted into the army?
I think if we want the same rights, it comes with the same responsibilities.
Do you think women should be drafted into the army?
No.
Okay, so
No,
then there's a paradox.
No, but that's
there.
my point. Yeah. I'm saying, like, let's make it fair.
You don't believe? Well, listen, this is your perfect world.
I'm saying that if we are going to vote, have the same cost, which is that men are put into selective service and women are not.
So, should disabled people lose the right to vote because they can't serve in the military? Only the physically strong and abled are allowed to vote? Also, it wouldn't be equal if women were in selective service because they would be sexually assaulted during wartime, whereas men wouldn't be. So really, they get this advantage not having to be drafted for war, but it's only because men wouldn't fight them the same way they'd fight other men. So again, this is a situation where your focus on making sure there's equality needs to be on men rather than women.
Wait, what does that mean?
No, I think if we're gonna vote, I think that we should have the same responsibility as the men and be enlisted in selective service.
So, what other rights do women want? You know what I mean? That are contradictory.
Okay, women want the right to not be a mother, but men don't have the right to not be a father.
Didn't you just say that women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they don't have the same responsibilities as men who have to be in selective service? Well, it goes both ways, Pearl. Men shouldn't be allowed to decide if a woman has a child because she has the responsibility and burden of carrying that child. When a man can carry and give birth to a child, then he can decide whether or not to keep one. Now it's men wanting equal rights without the responsibilities.
No.
Well, men have the choice in the sense that they can just wear a condom.
Right.
If they don't want to be a father.
Yeah, right. But women have the choice to go on birth control.
Okay.
Women have the choice
ultimately,
to take Plan B. Women have the choice to get an abortion. Women have the choice to, take the morning after pill. Women have the choice. You've like IUD. There's a million pills.
Right, but there's
Girl, you clearly know nothing about men when it comes to this topic. They don't want to be on birth control. Haven't you seen the studies where they have men on male birth control and they complain about the exact same side effects women deal with on their birth control, so they just never put it on the market? Men literally don't want those options. They don't want to have to deal with that pain and discomfort. So again, if they don't want the burden, they don't get the rights. It's as simple as that.
I'm saying
once the baby is conceived,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Then the man has no choice, where the woman has a choice.
Okay.
Yeah, that's biology for you. So now you don't like biology when it doesn't work in your favor? You're fine with relying on biology to bully women into having kids when they're not ready, and to act like when they're in a physically abusive relationship with a man, the abuse is mutual. But the second biology works in a woman's favor, you want to cry about it. Sorry, but men don't get to have it all the same way women don't. That's life.
My point is the double standard where a man is legally obligated to pay child support and will go to jail if he doesn't, but the woman has the choice to not be a mother through abortion.
Okay, so the way you want to say to just not get married if people think they might want to get a divorce eventually, I'm going to say just close your legs to men who think they might not want to have children. Also, men walk out on their family and don't pay child support all the time without getting any repercussions, so they don't often even end up getting jailed if we're being honest.
That we disagree on where life begins, essentially.
Right.
But ultimately, what quality of life do you expect this child to have from like a 13-year-old girl who's raped by her dad?
Mm-hmm. Is a lower quality life less valuable? Like, that's almost saying if you are in a bad situation, your life is less valuable than someone who isn't. And that's kind of a tricky argument.
Not less valuable, but I mean, if we're
But one should be aborted, one shouldn't. So one should be in society, one shouldn't be in society. I would say that's less valuable.
No, it's not less valuable. It's actually equally as valuable, because you won't let them suffer in life the way that other kid who was born won't suffer in life. Just being in society isn't a blessing in and of itself. You need more to live a happy, healthy life.
I think it's like very much a victim mindset to tell women, like, to go up telling us that we're oppressed. Like, I think that I can do anything minus like the physical stuff, but I think I can apply for any job a guy can if I want. I can go after any job that I want. I can ask for more money if I want. And I don't think that men are out there discriminating against women.
This is a very naive take. They are discriminating against women. Women also discriminate against women. Just because you think you can, it doesn't mean that's the reality. You're not the one who's trying to climb the corporate ladder or do any of these other things that other women are doing and are facing barriers because of their sex. Just because you think you can do anything a man does without being discriminated against, that doesn't mean you're right. If you don't believe me, go and try it out for yourself. See what happens.
I don't think that men are, men are such capitalists. Men want to make money. It's like, if women were so much cheaper, they would just hire all women.
Men are capitalists, but they're also humans who allow their subconscious biases towards other men affect their decisions. They're not as objective as you're claiming they are.
Let's talk about some of your really interesting ideas on this one here. You say men want younger women. This is something I've heard you say quite a few times here. I'll play this clip to set it up.
The person that will get me at 40 years old, at 50 years old, is getting a different version than he had when I was 18, 20 years old.
But it's a less valuable version to men.
Didn't you just bring up the argument against abortion that allowing one kid to be born and not another is essentially saying that other kid is less valuable, implying that it's morally wrong to suggest that? Why is that morally wrong, but going on and on about how less valuable women are as we age is perfectly fine? Are you saying fetuses all have equal value and therefore should all be born? If so, this is an opinion that lacks foresight. You can't just have an opinion about something in the moment and not consider life 5, 10, 15 years down the line.
You know, men are constantly shamed when they have a standard.
So are women.
And so your message to them is nothing. You're just saying that because it's true. I mean, why not just say the sun is hot?
I mean, don't wait till 35 to get married. Get married as young as you can.
Right.
Get married as young as you can, but also don't get married if it won't last forever. As if young people ever know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. Sure, Jan.
A woman who's not.
Well, historically, virginity has always been a prerequisite for marriage. Like 100 years ago, 85% of women didn't admit to premarital sex. So, it's more abnormal now that women are not virgins anymore.
You could improve paternity back then. Now you can. Keep up with the times. What are we going to do? Just always live without the benefits of scientific advancements? We don't need to hold the same harmful cultural beliefs anymore, so why do so?
Do you know what an appeal to tradition is? What we did 100 years ago doesn't predict anything.
Well, I'm saying the outcomes are better for women. Like, the outcomes are obviously better. We have more women on antidepressants than ever before. And,
First of all, Ethan ate. Second of all, everyone's on antidepressants nowadays, not just women. And it's not because of women gaining more rights. It's because people are lonelier. They don't have enough time to take care of their well-being. They don't have enough money to take care of their well-being. I mentioned this earlier, but it's really a class issue, not a feminist issue.
It's tough because there are studies both ways when it comes to female happiness, but most of the ones that I've seen indicate that women are unhappy over a certain age without children, that most women wanted to have kids at some point in their life. And I just think, and you could see what happens in front of you. Like, you're not blind. Women are happier with a family. Correct. Yes. I would say I was more valuable 5 years ago. Yes. In terms of the dating market. Yes.
So do you think that, how can somebody who's older and not a virgin and less valuable how can they get in a relationship with a man and not think they're a loser?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like you start in a certain place in life, but all you can do is improve and get better.
So then what's your point in saying to all these women that they've peaked, that they're less valuable to men when it comes to dating, etc., etc.? It sounds to me like you're just trying to bully them, to be honest. Especially because you don't say that they can only try their best from now on to them. You only say that about yourself. I swear, Pearl is just a bully.
Interesting. I agree. So what is the point of telling people that they're,
Because a lot of
you
times
know,
we're like
damaged?
we're lied to. We're not even told what men want. Being told that men want younger women is like crazy, even though that's
That's
something
not true, by the way.
new.
That's not true, by the way.
Men don't want younger women. They want, okay, who's hotter? A 50-year-old is equally as hot as a 20-year-old, just based on looks and nothing else.
So, yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be.
Yeah, sure, most of the time it would be the younger woman. But again, what's your point? Everyone's gonna age eventually, and if a guy is only into young women, then he'll just leave you for a younger woman. Or in the case that he's married to you and can't get a divorce, he'd probably just kill you so he could go and be with a younger woman. I mean, hell, men already do that now, and divorce is legal. Imagine if he couldn't get a divorce. Yeah, those are the main points of the H3 versus Pearl debate. If you think you have any other points that I didn't mention that were worth mentioning, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.